down these vocab words. A rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction, which is the numerator over denominator. That's what n slash d stands for. Where n and d are integers, and d cannot equal 0. So you cannot have 0 at the bottom of your fraction. Simplifying fractions, that's making the numerator and denominator have no other common factors other than 1. So we are going to be reviewing these things, and you guys have known how to simplify fractions for a few years now. So that's our first thing we're going to go over, is simplifying fractions. So we are going to simplify 12 over 36. So the first thing we need to do is decide what is divisible by 12 and 36. What goes into both of those numbers? So common choices might be 2, 3, you could also do 4, or 6. So you want to always go with the biggest number that you could possibly choose. So in this case, we would choose to divide by 6. We have to divide by 6 on both the numerator and the denominator. So 12 divided by 6 would be 2, and 36 divided by 6 would be 6. And then we end up getting 2 over 6, which now has another divisor. So 2 and 6 both have what in common? They both have 2 in common. So now we need to divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 would be 1, over 6 divided by 2 would be 3. So our answer in simplified form is 1/3. You could have also chosen to divide by 12, which would have got you straight to 1/3. Both of those things are okay, but sometimes you don't see the biggest divisor at the beginning and you have to end up dividing twice or 3 times. The next problem is, that was number 1. Number 2, negative 24 over 32. So we need to try to decide what goes into both of those numbers. So we could choose 4, 2, 6 doesn't work. 8 would work, and that would probably be our biggest number that could go into both of them. So let's divide by 8. So negative 24 divided by 8, a negative divided by a positive stays a negative. So that would be negative 3 over, and then 32 divided by 8 would be 4. So they don't have any other numbers in common other than 1. So our answer is negative 3/4. Okay, on number 3 and 4, I would like you to try to do those on your own. Okay, let's go over number 3 and 4. So 16 over 80. So common number that stands out that they both have in common would be 8. So if I start dividing by 8, 16 divided by 8 is 2, over 80 divided by 8 would be 10. Now if you notice 2 over 10, we aren't done simplifying that yet. They have something else in common, which is 2. So now I need to divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 would be 1, and 10 divided by 2 would be 5. So my final answer would be 1/5. Number 4, 9 over 55. Okay, so let's go through some numbers here. 2 doesn't go into both of those. 3 doesn't go into both of those. 4 doesn't go into both of those. 5 goes into one of them, but not the other. 6 doesn't go into either. You kind of get down to 7, 8, 9, 10. None of those go into 9 or 55, or 9 and 55 both. So this right here is completely simplified. 9 over 55 can't be simplified anymore. Okay, number 5 and 6, we are going to work on writing each decimal as a fraction in simplest form. And you guys have done this before, starting as early as maybe 5th grade. So what we're going to do is look at putting a number into a mixed fraction. So negative 5.59. So the negative 5 is going to stay a whole number. And 0.59, we need to put it over a denominator. So if you read this out loud, it would be negative 5.59 hundredths. So we're going to put it over 100. So 59 over 100. Also, another trick you can look at is how many numbers are past the decimal. There's 1, 2 numbers past the decimal. And I have 1, 2 zeros in my denominator. So that's another way you can think of it as to which number to put in your denominator. So now we need to look at, can 59 over 100 be simplified? So take a look and see if you have any common numbers that go into both 59 and 100 and decide whether it can be simplified. So if you go through a few of them, you'll see that there's nothing in common between 59 and 100 except 1. So your final answer would be negative 5 and 59 over 100. Okay, number 6, so the same trick. We're going to put this over a number in our denominator. So 5,714 over, and then count your decimals, count past the decimals. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to put 4 zeros in the denominator. So it'd be 5,714 over 10,000. Okay, so notice that this ends in 4 and the denominator ends in 0, so that means it would have to be divisible by 2. So let's go ahead and divide by 2. So you end up with 2,857 over 5,000. Okay, and so whenever you end with a 7, that's kind of a red flag that a lot of times you're not going to be able to divide anymore. So go ahead and check through and see if you have anything else that it can divide by. So 2 is no longer an option. So check 3, maybe check 7. And if you check a few numbers, you'll see that there's no other numbers you can divide by. So that would be your most simplified version. Okay, number 7 and 8, I want you to try on your own. So now let's go over number 7 and 8. So 5.37 would be 5 and 37 hundredths. And 37 and 100 don't have anything in common, so that would be your final answer. Number 8 is 6.622, so you're going to put 622 over 1,000, because there are 3 numbers past the decimal, so I need 3 zeros in my denominator. And 622 over 1,000, those both are divisible by 2. So if I divide by 2, I would get 311 over 500. So they go through and check, and if you checked other numbers, you notice that there's no other numbers in common, so this is your most simplified answer. All right, next on number 9 and 10, we are going to change from fractions to decimals. So what we're going to do is get into a little bit of long division, which I know is everybody's favorite thing. So what we're going to do is a long division problem and 5 divided by 4. So that means that 5 is what goes on the inside of the division symbol, and 4 is what goes on the outside. So let's walk through long division. So 4 goes into 5 one time, so I'm going to put a 1 right here. 4 times 1 is 4. I'm going to write that underneath the 5, and remember you have to subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. And now I'm stuck, I can't put 4 into 1, so I need to add some zeros. So what I'm going to do is come back up to the 5, put a decimal and a 0, and then I'm going to drop the 0 down. So 4 goes into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. And then I do subtraction. 10 minus 8 is 2. And again, I need to add a 0 because 4 does not go into 2. So I'm going to add another 0 and drop it down. So 4 goes into 20 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract. And I end up with a remainder of 0, which is what you would like to get. So now I need to go back in and add in my decimal. So I need to count. I put in 2 decimal places, so I need to put in 2 decimal places and put my decimal right there. So my final answer would be 1.25. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on number 10. So it's -1 divided by 6. So what I would do is I would ignore the negative until the very end and then just put the negative back in the problem. So what we're going to do is just 1 divided by 6. So 1 is going to go on the inside of the division symbol and 6 is going to go on the outside. So I'm already starting off with having to add a decimal because 6 cannot go into 1. So I'm going to add a decimal and a 0, and I can actually go ahead and put the decimal straight up on my answer part. So 6 goes into 10 how many times? Would be 1 time. 6 times 1 is 6, so I need to subtract. 10 minus 6 would be 4. Okay, so now I need to add another 0 and drop it down. 6 goes into 40 how many times? The most it can go in would be 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36, so then I subtract. 40 minus 36 would be 4. Put in another 0 and drop it down. So 6 goes into 40 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. Subtract, and I end up with 4. So notice you have a pattern happening. You have a pattern right here, and you're going to always end up with 40 every single time. So what does that tell you you need to put on your answer? That means that you're going to have a repeating number. So we're going to put a repeating bar on our answer. So our final answer would be 0.16 repeating, or if you didn't notice it, you could even put it on the second six, either one would be fine. But that would be your final answer. Okay, number 11 is 12. You need to try those on your own. Just dividing. Okay, let's go over number 11. You have 11 1 time, which would be 9. You subtract, you have 11 minus 9, which is 2. You need to put in a decimal, like carry it up to the top, and then add a 0. Drop the 0 down. 9 goes into 20 2 times. 9 times 2 is 18. And then I subtract 20 minus 18 is 2. Put in another 0. Carry the 0 down. 9 goes into 20 2 times. And I have 9 times 2 is 18. Subtract. I have a remainder of 2. So once again, I keep having a pattern of 20 minus 18 with a remainder of 2. So that tells me that I need to put in a repeat symbol, and this would be my final answer. 1.2 repeating. Number 12, I have 7 divided by 20. So 20 does not go into 7, so I, at the very beginning, need to put in a decimal and a 0. So 20 goes into 70 3 times. 20 times 3 is 60. 70 minus 60 is 10. So I need to put in another 0 and carry it down. 20 goes into 100 5 times. 20 times 5 is 100. So you have a remainder of 0. So your answer would be 0.35. Okay, your homework assignment is page 8 and 9, even 2 through 36, 57, and 58. You'll often see your homework assignment written like this. And the E right there stands for even. So that's usually how I would write your homework assignment. E means even. And I expect you to go through this assignment and show your work and have it ready for Ms. Jeffries